This man lit the photo on fire. When the flame reached the arm of the woman in the photo, the real woman's hand also went up in flames. Everyone was shocked. One man rushed to get a fire extinguisher and sprayed it on the woman's hand. But nothing worked. Bird looked at the fire on the photo and immediately put it out. The fire on the girl's body went out. The photo was back to its original state. And all because of a weird camera. A few days ago, Bird's boyfriend found an antique camera. Because Bird is a photography enthusiast, as soon as he got the camera, he gave it to Bird. Bird was so happy that she immediately took a picture of her boyfriend with the camera. When she got home, she realized there was a dark shadow in the photo. She thought it was something dirty, but no matter how he wiped it off, it wouldn't come off. But she thought the camera was old, so it was normal to have problems with it. Bo didn't take it seriously. Then her best friend came to ask her to go to the ball with her. It was all behind her. Her boyfriend, who works in an antique store, was checking out a new player. He spotted a dark shadow on one of the pictures, but when he switches it on, the shadow disappears. When he resumed playing, the shadow appeared in the next picture. He thought there was something wrong with the projector, so he wiped the lens with his sleeve. But it didn't work. The shadow was still there, and it had gotten bigger. He grabbed a hammer and slowly approached the curtain to get rid of the shadow. But when he pulled back the curtain, there was nothing there. While he was wondering what was going on, he was horrified to see a ghostly figure speeding towards him. The next moment, he was in the presence of God. Bo knew nothing of this and was happy to play at the party. Her friends asked her to help them take pictures. She even used the camera her boyfriend gave her to take their pictures. There was something wrong with Bo when she took the pictures, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Then a woman dressed as a witch appeared. She took a selfie of herself with Bird's camera. Before she could look at it, someone downstairs said the police were coming. She slipped the camera and the picture to Bird. Then Bird heard someone downstairs calling her. It turns out that the police had come to see her. They asked her about her boyfriend. It was then that Bird realized that her boyfriend had died in an accident. She frowned. She couldn't accept the reality. Fighting back the pain in her heart, she told the police she had just met him before work. At that time, her boyfriend was fine. There was no way he could have killed himself. After a brief questioning, the police asked Bird's mother to pick him up. When she got home, she took out her boyfriend's photo. To her horror, she realized that the black figure in the photo had disappeared. Instead, the black shadow appeared on the picture of the witch. She realized something was wrong, wanted to contact the other side, but was afraid that it was just her guess. In the end, she chose to give up. The witch had just sent her guests away when she heard a noise from upstairs. She cautiously came upstairs to check, but found the place empty. But she wasn't worried and searched every part of the house. Just then, a dark shadow appeared. The witch panicked and escaped, but she accidentally hit a lamp and fell to the ground. Then a pair of hands grabbed her head and twisted it, and the witch met her death. The next day, Bird learned of the witch's accidental death. She immediately thought of the dark figure in the photograph. She went back to her room to check the photo with trepidation. To her horror, the dark figure behind the witch disappeared. The figure appeared behind one of the boys in the photo. It seemed she was right. Anyone caught on the camera will die. To prevent any more bad things from happening, she tried to destroy the camera, but she was knocked away by a magical force. Bird had to take the camera and the pictures to her friends. She told them what she thought, but it was so bizarre that none of her friends believed her. Devin even took out a lighter and threatened to destroy the photos. And then the next thing that happened was horrible. This woman took a picture with her camera. The night after, her neck was broken. At the funeral, Bo took out the camera and the picture, told the other guys that if they got caught on camera, they'd die. Devin didn't think so and took out a lighter to light the photo on fire. Unexpectedly, a real girl bursts into flames. In the end, Bode was able to put out the fire in the photo. That's how the girl got her life back. Now they have to believe everything Bode says. To save themselves, they sat her down to discuss the solution. They found out that Bode's boyfriend had just given her the camera yesterday. The camera had been given to her by Bird's boyfriend just yesterday, along with the film and the holster that came with it. They split up. Bird and Kumbo head to the antique store to look for the holster. The others stayed behind to take care of the burned girl. Since Combs is in the photo, it could be dangerous for him to go in. Bird decides to go in alone. She slipped through the ventilation ducts of the antique store. After a careful search, she found the holster on a shelf, but no sooner had she gotten it than she heard a strange noise coming from the corner. Then she saw a dark figure. Bird ran away, but she accidentally hit a pillar and fell to the ground. Luckily, a nearby hot air blower was in operation and stopped the shadow. Bird escaped with her life. Back in the car, she was still wondering. She wasn't in the photo, so why did the shadow come after him? Kumbo, who was next to her, told her, because you're in it. When the photo was taken, there was a window behind them, and Bird was facing the glass. She was also in the picture. At that moment, Bird realized that the shadow had moved behind the burned girl. She called the girl. She asked her not to be alone. But not long before, the lights in the hospital room suddenly flickered. Her boyfriend Devin went out to look for the nurse. She was alone in the room. When she heard Bird say that, she got out of bed and went to look for her boyfriend. But as soon as she opened the curtain, she saw a dark shadow. When Devon came back, all she saw was an empty room and blood on the floor. She searched for the bloodstains. Pulling back the curtains, her girlfriend fell straight from the roof of the building. This caused him to lose his temper and blame Bird for everything. If she hadn't taken pictures with her camera, none of this would have happened. Bird blames himself for it, but the most important thing for them to do right now is to solve the problem, not fight about it. So she searched through the camera case, and she found a note in the compartment. It contained a message about a camera murder. Based on this clue, they went to the town's archives to look for a newspaper from that year. They learned that the former owner of the camera was a photography teacher named Roland, but more than 10 years ago, he inexplicably kidnapped several students and brutally murdered them. He filmed the whole process with his camera, so they went back to Roland's house. They found out from his wife, Roland kidnapped the students because they hurt Roland's daughter, Becca. Becca was severely autistic and was often bullied at school. In order to make her happy, the couple bought this camera. They didn't realize that Becca would be abducted by some of the students soon after. They took indecent photos of her. What's more, they pasted the photos in the school. Afterwards, Becca was so humiliated that she chose to commit suicide. Roland decided to take revenge, but before he could take care of the last one, he was killed by the police. Before he died, Roland was still holding on to his camera. When they found out everything, they guessed that all these times had something to do with Roland because he didn't finish his revenge. That's why he was still attached to the camera after his death. It seems that they have to help Roland eliminate the last person in order to solve the crisis, and they all met at the cafe, but they had a disagreement and a fight. In the confusion, Devon was accidentally photographed. Then they saw the shadow move to Devon's picture. They then realized that the shadow would prioritize the people in the latest photo, and his next target is Devon. It's a cannibalistic camera. It kills whoever it photographs, and no one can escape. If the photo is damaged, then the corresponding person in reality will also have problems. Minna just inserted chopsticks into the photo. The real man's hand was nailed to the nail. When Minna pulled out the chopsticks, the photo was strangely restored, but the man's hand couldn't be restored. The man wanted to beat Minna, but he accidentally hit a passing policeman. The man was jailed for a day. Bode rushed to tell the police what happened, but the police didn't believe a word of it and sent them away. They went to look for the surviving student. After they left, the police left the station. Inside the cell, Devon suddenly heard a noise from outside. He looked through the glass and saw a shadow outside. The next thing he knew, the shadow was outside the door. Apparently, he was trying to break in. Devon waited for a while. When he didn't hear any more noise, he cautiously poked his head out. He realized the shadow had disappeared. Just as he let his guard down, he realized that the shadow had appeared behind him. The next thing he knows, there's a scream from the holding cell. Bird and her men sneak into the school and find the file from that year. They realized that the student was the policeman who had just kicked them out. Just then, a dark shadow appeared. It was the policeman who had followed them. Seeing the culprit's arrival, they took a picture of the policeman with their cameras. They waited for the black shadow to judge him, but then the cop told another story. He said they weren't the ones who took Becca's indecent photos, but his father Roland. When they found the photos, they persuaded Becca to give them to the police. Roland found out and kidnapped them, and Becca committed suicide because she blamed herself, and Becca died after the photo murder. They can't find that out. They were confused as to who was telling the truth, but the shadow didn't give them time to think. He appeared behind them. He picked up the policeman's photo. Without waiting for them to fight back, he tore the photo in half. The policeman got their lunch on the spot. Then it was Bird's turn. The black shadow surrounded Bird. Just as he tried to make a move, he was shot by Kembo. Bird took the opportunity to run away with Minna. The shadows followed them all the way. At the critical moment, Bode found the bathroom and turned on the hot water. The shadow is stopped by the heat. He turns around and goes after Kumbo. Bird calmed down and told Minna to stay where she was. She went to find Kumbo. Shortly after, she manages to find Kumbo. Looking at the photo of the two of them together, she suddenly thought of an idea. Since the photo is connected to reality, then she can also use the rules to eliminate the black shadow. But they must find the camera. Unexpectedly, the black shadow is crouching next to the camera and takes Kumbo away. Bird rushes to take a selfie with the camera, successfully distracting the shadow. Bird makes a quick getaway with the camera to the basement of the school. But a human can outrun a monster. She was quickly grabbed by the shadowy figure by the neck and lifted up high. At the critical moment, Bode grabbed the camera and snapped a shot at the shadow. When she was free, she looked at the photo. Once she was sure he had captured the shadow, she rubbed the photo into a ball. It worked. The figure froze in place, but she couldn't get rid of it completely. As soon as the photo was stretched, the shadow returned to its original form. It kept moving closer and closer to Bird. At that moment, Bird found a lighter. With trembling hands, she lit the photo on fire. Soon after, the photo turned to ashes and the shadow was completely eliminated. Minna and Kumbo arrived at that moment. The three of them hugged each other happily. Finally, Bird took the camera to the beach and threw it into the deep sea, so that the camera has no chance to hurt anyone. Usually, Horror movies are meant to have a theme. As the plot develops, it eventually reveals something thematic, some truth about human nature. That's what happened with The Beach Chestnut. The plot develops and is revealed later by two stories told by the mom of the camera's original heroine and the sheriff. But these two people tell very different stories. There must be one true story and one false story told by these two people. By figuring out who is telling the true story, you also figure out the theme of this horror movie. The idea of the movie is actually quite good, using a vintage Polaroid camera to lead to a series of unbelievable thriller and suspense plot. This kind of movie uses the design of beautiful men and women as door signs, and then one after the other is mysteriously killed. In this way, it creates a sensory thrill of blood and horror. Eventually, the protagonists come up with a strategy to fight the villain and thus get rid of the predestined ending.